Home First. Tonight, I have a new name for the government of Kenya. It is a government of knee-jerk reactions. And I have several reasons for arriving at this conclusion. The unfortunate incident at Precious Talent Top Academy in Dagoretti South constituency has yet again cast the spotlight on the government, particularly the Ministry of Education and County Government of Nairobi. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has not only closed down the Precious Talent School, but revoked its registration license. The school's proprietor, Moses Wainaina, is in police custody, awaiting his day in court tomorrow to face a series of charges, among them 8 counts of murder and negligence. 2 more schools have been closed down in Kangemi and Kibra. And these are the knee-jerk reactions I'm talking about. Had the tragedy at Precious Talent Academy not occurred, the schools that have been closed down still would have been in operation, notwithstanding the dangers posed to learners in those institutions whose only crime is seeking to quench their thirst for education. You also recall that Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko dramatically suspended 16 top officials, among them the Super CEC, Charles Kerich, and Planning Chief Officer Justus Kathenge, who was suspended while still on suspension. One wonders why such drastic actions are taken only after the fact. Did it have to take the loss of 8 innocent young lives for the Education Ministry and the County Government of Nairobi to act? But the response is not entirely new in Kenya. Do you remember the heart-wrenching bus accident at Fort Tenan that claimed 58 lives in October last year? Do you remember the all-too-familiar crackdown on unroadworthy public service vehicles that followed? But once the dust settled, it was back to business as usual. Miraa ferrying Probox vehicles, pickups and lorries are still wreaking havoc along Meru, Embu, Sagana, Nairobi Road every single day, with zero interference from hundreds of police officers and law enforcers manning countless roadblocks. But just wait until a major accident occurs, claiming lives, God forbid, and you will witness the all-too-familiar knee-jerk reactions from the police and the National Transport Authority, NTSA. I will not even remind you of the many times the government has threatened to bring down poorly constructed structures whenever a building collapses, claiming lives. Didn't it happen after buildings collapsed in Muthurwa, Nyamakema and Huruma? Must lives be lost for the government to act? Must a tragedy occur for the enforcement agencies to do the right thing? And in all these tragedies, many largely preventable, there are very little or no consequences for office holders who, through acts of omission or commission, facilitate these deaths and injuries. In developed nations, cabinet ministers and heads of government agencies have resigned whenever such tragedies occur under their watch. In February this year, Egypt's Transport Minister Hisham Arafat resigned after a train crash in Cairo's main station, killing 25 people. It will definitely be too much to ask for a similar decision from the Education Cabinet Secretary after the Precious Talent Academy incident. It was certainly unimaginable for Transport Cabinet Secretary James Macharia last year to borrow a leaf from his Indian counterpart after the Fort Tenan bus tragedy. And make no mistake, even if another incident claims lives now or in the future, expect a litany of raids, crackdowns, and knee-jerk reactions, because that is the rule book in our country. That's my punchline.
On my kicker tonight, I wish to discuss new expenditure control measures announced by the government today. A circular issued by Treasury Acting Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani seeks to tighten public spending in order to, quote, enhance requirements for the Big Four plan. The circular directs ministries, departments and agencies to take steps that include cutting down on costs on foreign travel, provision of newspapers, purchase of furniture, mobile phone airtime, advertisement, and acquisition of motor vehicles, among others. Now, I believe the acting CS means well, but he must be made aware of concerns over the so-called new austerity measures. First, the spending control measures are straight out of the shelves of Treasury building. These measures are neither new nor original, even though it would be unfair to accuse the acting CS of plagiarism. Secondly, the so-called austerity measures constitute an outright act of contempt for both the intelligence and memory of right-thinking Kenyans. It is, in short, another dishonest document straight out of the Ministry of Finance. And here are my illustrations. Let me start with the plain dishonesty. First, today's Treasury circular is silent on numbers. It has no clear target of how much money the government intends to save through the expenditure cuts. It is a blind document, flying more on generalities than specifics. On travel, for example, the circular instructs ministries to minimize travel. It doesn't mention what minimize translates to in Kenya shillings. Then there is the commendable suspension of the so-called benchmarking and study tours, but no figures, no indication how much would be saved through this otherwise laudable measure. How about the ban on newspaper supplements in favor of ministerial websites? There is no indication how much money will be saved from this measure. I'm not an accountant or financial expert, but to paraphrase former President Mwai Kibaki, I know, you know, and everybody knows that cost-cutting plans is always about real, actual numbers, not generalities, not a blind wish list. Now, here is my second reason why the circular is plain dishonest. Kenyans have been taken down this road before, and in even more colorful terms. Cost-cutting is an annual ritual the Finance Ministry has treated Kenyans to in recent years. The raft of measures contained in today's circular are, for example, a copy of measures announced in 2018 by former Treasury CS Henry Rotich. The former CS announced similar measures in 2015 and others in 2016. Now, this is where the insult on the intelligence and memory of Kenyans comes in. Treasury officials do not expect that Kenyans remember. They do not expect that Kenyans would remember that at one time, fuel-efficient German cars known as Passats were supposed to be the official cars for cabinet secretaries and other senior government officials. They do not expect that Kenyans know that spending on luxury fuel guzzlers is today the status symbol of being in government. They would not expect that Kenyans know that government officials, including politicians, have little regard for budgeting and little inconveniences such as the Treasury circular. They expect that Kenyans forget the fact that such circulars have never been followed to the letter. Now, let me not just condemn. Allow me to recommend as follows. In his circular, CS Yatani invoked the Big Four plan. To him, I humbly submit that none of that can be funded by savings from newspaper budgets. So, do not back up the wrong tree. Those mega dreams need mega plans and mega cuts, and cutting down on multi-layered government bureaucracy. It is time to initiate an honest discussion about the duplicitous agencies, some of them moribund or active merely as cost centers. Secondly, it is time to stare straight in the eye of marauding consultancy monster that has since 2013 distorted government structures and literally displaced public servants. Thirdly, and more decisively, fighting or stopping official corruption can give you enough savings for some of the Big Four plans. If a third of the country's 3 trillion budget is consumed by corruption, then a prudent and honest government would know where to start the crucial struggle to make savings. One final tip to the Treasury: push the fight against corruption down to the stage of asset recovery. You will be shocked how much you can be accomplished without those rhetorical circulars. Ask any accountant. That is my kicker.
Another week, another catastrophe. 8 needless deaths. Gone far too soon. We know this cycle. Buildings collapse, lives are lost, government authorities talk tough. Buildings are demolished for a short time only. Politicians dust off old scripts. They rush to the scene to assess the damage, offer assistance, praise courage of the affected, promise to learn lessons, and then go on with their scheduled activities of the day. It's just another day at the office. Key performance indicators or KPIs met. This is what Citizen TV recently termed as disaster celebrities, a term that rubbed those named the wrong way. And they were quick to respond. Esther Passaris, Nairobi County Women Representative, tweeted this, and I quote, she said, "Really? I was there. I assessed the situation. I organized for water, soft drinks, bread and milk. I appreciated the Boda Boda and youth of Ngando for their heroic efforts before the disaster teams arrived. I then went about my scheduled duties ending at KNH at 7 p.m. End of quote. And so another Twitter user, Nanda Nyonge, then challenged her, saying it would be more important to prevent these disasters from happening in the first place, rather than using them to showcase her good Samaritan traits. To which she replied, and I quote, "No one can stop disasters from happening. No one can stop accidents from happening. What we can do is learn from mistakes and work towards averting both disasters and accidents." End of tweet. With all due respect, madam, this was no accident. A building that did not pass the safety requirements collapsed. It was not an accident. Some people dropped the ball. Someone or some people should be held responsible for this. And pray tell, which lessons are these you want us to learn exactly? How many years shall we take to learn these lessons? How many lives will it cost us while we, quote, learn from our mistakes? Didn't we learn already from previous buildings collapsing in this city? In fact, an audit commissioned by President Kenyatta in 2015 found that only 42% of the buildings in Nairobi were fit for habitation. So yes, madam, we can stop these accidents, perhaps the correct term is incidents, from happening. If we did not learn from the 2016 collapse in Huruma that killed over 50 lives and the many others that followed, then we never will. Instead, we have leaders who can and should hold authorities to account, influence policy, pass legislation, ensure implementation, instead passing the buck to some faceless individual called accidents. They also blame the victims for inhabiting unsafe buildings. They supply food and drinks, and they promise to learn lessons. Surely if this were an exam, the leaders would score an epic fail. And just in case you were thinking that this is an isolated incident, let me take you back to June 2018. Yet another building in Huruma collapsed. 2 people died. Scores others were injured. The country at the time was moved by the story of a courageous young boy who risked his life to save that of his brothers. The Nairobi County Women Rep was there too. And she tweeted this: "I met little Wayne this afternoon in Huruma when I went to assess the damage and offer assistance to the affected families. Because Wayne saved his baby brother as the building collapsed, I asked him what he wanted for his bravery, and he said, a bike. My bright star of the tragedy," she tweeted. Sounds familiar? Same script, different cast. Except this is no movie. This is real life. And Kenyans are dying while politicians play on the stage to a non-existent audience. Fellow citizens, we need no more audits, no more studies, no more tough talk. We do not elect leaders to praise us for our heroism, to mourn with us. We can do that for ourselves. We do not elect them to bring us soft drinks and food in times of trouble. We do not elect them to come pray with us. After all, the Bible says God hears the prayers where 2 or 3 are gathered. Nowhere does it give the requirement for a politician to be present. We elect them and pay them to ensure laws and regulations are followed to prevent these needless deaths from ever happening in the first place. And that is my take tonight. It's a wrap.
It's a wrap, man.
This international edition thing is becoming a habit, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Shuri, it's you and me next.
Yes.
Good. And Robert, our director.
Even if it means going to Banana.
No, but Banana is not diaspora. All right. Lina, say something.
Yeah, I'm just wondering where the visa applications processed for Banana.
That's not what we're expecting you to say, but you know what we're saying. All right, in Mshada.
Yes.
Listen, thank you very much, Professor Alfred Omenya. We really appreciate your time on the show tonight. And many thanks as well to Jamila Mohammed and Joe Ageo, and they will be back. Watarudi too?
Yeah.
Yeah, as they're acting all international and stuff. Hopefully they won't have picked up an accent. Hatujasikia vibaya hata. Listen, thanks for watching, and thanks for I was going to say communicating. What is that? For interacting with us. The hashtag is NewsGang. The conversation continues. Have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Good night.